is the Matrix.
Hi, and welcome back to a brand new video on the Targeted Individual Program, Targeted Individual Experience. So in this video, I'm going to continue some reading, showing you some more documents on the truth of what they've been trying to hide and how they've been discrediting the victims of non-consensual human experimentation program, and how they've been manipulating not just targeted individuals, but the general population at large. So I will begin in chapter 10 of Controlling the Human Mind, the Technology of Political Control, or Tools for Peak Performance by Dr. Nick Begich. Chapter 10. Who are the victims? There are many victims of this technology as a result of the various attempts made by the CIA and others in controlling the human mind. This is a fact based on their own admission and the admissions of other parts of the United States government. Unlike other things hidden from the public because of national security, making this matter public serves a higher security. It is a matter of human security. The very existence of what it means to be human is attacked by the misuse of these technologies. Consider that free will, the right to self-determination, is what separates us as individually created beings and also liberate us in the fullest sense of true liberty. The concept of private thinking is and as I said, the word concept of private thinking is fundamental to the rights of free speech, assembly, religion, and every other God-given right we share in common as human beings. Those rights first require the right to freedom of thought and mind. Those that move against the mind violate the human spirit in a manner that most religions of the world agree that God will not even do. Who gives anyone the right to interfere with the free will or the mind of another person? Sometimes referred to as waves or beamers, victims are usually dismissed when asserting that they are victims of mind-controlled weapons testing. In fact, at the University of South Florida, researchers have published a study showing that fears of the internet are replacing the CIA and radio waves as a frequent delusion in psychiatric patients. In other cases of internet delusion documented by the researchers, the patient usually had little experience with computers. The problem is that it is difficult, if not impossible, to sort out which people might be victims and which are delusional. And there's a very easy way in which you can sort that out. Okay? I'm not going to discuss it here on this video, but, I'll talk about this in some other video. Okay? Attempts to determine the reality of the complaint are often the butt of jokes and fear. For example, the University of Albany has shut down the research of a psychology professor probing the X-file world of government surveillance and mind control. At conferences, in papers, and research over 2 semesters, Professor Catherine Kelly explored the claims of those who say they are surgically implanted with communication device to read their thoughts. Since the release of my first co-authored book with Gene Manning, Angels Don't Play This Harp, and as I said, Gene Okay, and if you guys watch my video, you understand why they will use the police sirens when I mention the name Gene. Okay, angels don't play this harp. Advanced in Tesla technology. I have read from hundreds of people making such claim. We cannot sort out who might be real victims from those who are not. I believe that the claim should be taken seriously and that people should have some place to go in order to find the truth or to gain. As I said, people have somewhere to go. I hear. Okay. In order to find the truth or to gain the medical treatment they otherwise deserve. The history of the United States is littered with examples of people being exploited by scientists working under the cover of darkness funded by black budgets. Could these new victims reports have a factual basis? Of course they do. Okay? Do a brain scan. That's one of the ways you can tell. Do a brain scan, and not just any brain scan. There is a specific brain scan, the one that the American diplomats had done, which shows the damage to their brain when they were hit with sonic weapons or directed energy weapons. Okay? So I believe that full disclosure and cessation of the misuse of these technologies should be initiated through domestic and international law in all countries of the world. Freedom of thought and mind should be seen as a basic fundamental human rights. The right to think, free from any form of technical manipulation, must be pressed into the institution of law and civility. Government control of the mind in order to impose its will upon people is best summarized on the wall of Franklin D. Roosevelt Memorial, where an inscription appears to read, I wonder what happened there. They who seek to establish, I know what happened. So usually when I talk about my targeting and I share important information like I do in these types of video, they are so afraid of people watching my videos and learning the truth. It's always this, we're back, right? So if you're silent, then we'll go away. But if you keep talking, then we're back. Well, guess what? I know you never leave. You're still targeting me. I will always be targeted. So that doesn't work. Try again. Okay? Try again. Harder this time. All right. So they who seek to establish systems of government based on the regimentation of all human beings by a handful of individual rulers call this a new order. It is not new. It is not order. There are things that need to be done in support of victims in the areas covered in this book and elsewhere. The United States must be held accountable for what it has done to its own citizens and countless people outside of U.S. boundaries. At the present time, there are U.S. Supreme Court cases that support the suppression of even the names and institutions involved in this kind of classified research, giving the government the right to use the finest minds in perpetrating their crimes against humanity. Is this right? Is this the United States of America, the country that our fathers fought to preserve, engaged in this nasty work? Our country is about freedom, liberty, and justice, none of which can be realized unless our shared value are amplified in our public policies as technology evolves. Now, I always laugh when I read statements like this, and no disrespect to Dr. Nick Begich. I mean, he's a very intelligent and good human being, right? But he's also white, okay? I am a black man, okay? Though I wasn't born in the United States is my home. But my brothers and sisters, the foundational Black Americans, or the descendants of enslaved people, enslaved African people here in the United States, you know, they have gone through the opposite. Yes, Black people, enslaved people fought in every war this country had, whether internally or externally, but they were not treated with the same respect, the same thankfulness, gratefulness by the vast majority of white Americans. Okay? So I understand the cognitive dissonance that even some of the brightest and well meant and meaning white people have in their intent. But, you know, when they speak like this, they're speaking on their whiteness, right? Whereas being a Black person, I've studied history. I know history. I know American history, I think, you know, very well, all right? Very well. Even some of the history that they don't want to talk about. Okay? So, yes, America is, on paper, supposed to be about freedom, liberty, and justice. Unless you are Black. Then none of these things apply to you. Okay? And it doesn't matter if you are a foundational Black American or somebody who's immigrated to the United States. If you're Black, this really does not apply to you. Okay? And I'll use the phrase that I see a lot of my people, particularly Black women, use. Well, in my head, you know, I believe, in my head, I believe, you know, yeah, that's what we do. In our heads, we believe. But the reality is, it is not so. Okay? A number of things that can be done by those that support the cause of victims. My present role is public education on these issues. Getting these issues addressed will take refining the data and presenting the evidence as many have done in the past. This time, people need help to do this. Individuals throughout the world send me research reports, articles, papers, and bits of information all the time that I use in lectures, radio reports, and through my published work in these areas. Currently, the best material on a priority basis are being added to the database at the www.layinstitute.org. Making information viable is important for getting the issues addressed. Those who believe they are victims are urged to write us explaining their situation so that a record of those situations can be kept in the event solutions are found. As solutions develop or ways that people can help address these and related issues, there will be a way to reach individuals and provide information on these subjects. Consider helping in the effort and support not just for victims, but for everyone on the planet. Those shall end our free will. Chapter 11, Moving Down the Path. The idea that the brain can be made to function at a more efficient and direct level has been the subject of research by scientists, mystics, health practitioners, and others as long as mankind has contemplated such matter. In the last decade, advances in the science of the brain have begun to yield significant research results that are startling, challenging, and will be frightening if misused. The only certainty to be expected from the research is that it will continue to proceed. Where the military would like to go is of great concern when considered completely. The following is an example. It would also appear possible to create high fidelity speech in the human body, raising the possibility of covert suggestion and psychological direction. Now, I show you guys this in my videos by explaining how whenever I feel the nudge or the push, the urge, which is, it comes in the form of an urge to look, to say something, to do something. You know, uncontrollable hand movement, knocking stuff over, throwing stuff out of your hand, in which your conscious mind is not aware of, but your body is doing that action, right? Meaning that someone has hijacked your mind and is controlling your motor function. Okay? Thus, it may be possible to talk to selected adversary in a fashion that would be most disturbing to them. Okay? As I said, talk to adversaries, selected adversaries. Okay? The concept that people can be impacted by external signal generators which create, for example, pulse electromagnetic fields, pulse light, and pulse sound signal is not new. The following information demonstrates some of the possibility and give hints of the potential for the technology. On the positive side, researchers in the field of light and sound are making huge progress in a number of areas, including working with learning disabilities, attention deficit disorder, stroke recovery, accelerated learning, drug, alcohol addiction, and enhanced human performance. The research has shown that certain brain states can be influenced in a way which cause, as I say, can be influenced. And every time I press the police sirens, when I hear that side, as soon as I press the police siren, I hear another police siren. Okay? The research has shown that certain brain states can be influenced in a way which causes pulse changes within the brain itself. These changes, as I said, within the brain itself, I hear. Hold on. Okay, but it's much closer. The two sirens sound, right? So the research has shown that certain brain states can be influenced in a way which causes, and again, as I said to myself, where am I trying to remember where I was? I hear. So like I said, they'll use the police siren when I can't remember things, as if I'm going to remember it. But no, that doesn't help me to remember what I forget, But it is their way of, again, deceiving people and trying to deceive me so that I will say, okay, yeah, I remember. No, if I don't remember, I don't remember. So that's not going to work either. Because I understand, like I said, I've studied this program for a long time. I studied the Dark Triads, and though I may not know them personally, but I know through my targeting, and particularly through the subliminal message that's been sent to me, I know exactly who they are. These are racists. These are Nazi racist Americans who, again, have given the ideology to the Nazi ideology to the Germans, and the Germans called themselves Nazis during the 30s and 40s during the Second European War, right? So it is that same mindset that continues to permeate through passing down of that mindset through their offspring. Okay? So the changes allow individuals to the possibility of influencing, and as I say the word possibility, so again, any sort of positive affirmation, any sort of, forward thinking, forward leaning, forward being, any type of progressive or progression of you as a TI in terms of your mental your psychology, right? Though you're still bombarded with the negative stuff and it affects you, but it's when you are trying to the program, a lot of the programming they've done to you, they don't want that, right? See, they have to keep you in a negative mindset and in a negative state of mind, because then you're going to act according to how they label you, right? And they do that in order to keep you in this program, to keep you manipulated, to keep you microchipped, because again, like I said, you are the evidence of their crime, right? So again, they'll try to get rid of you, to discredit you, and they will create things in order to entrap you. They'll get people to lie, all these different things, right? And so when I talk about, people who they used to target me, all of a sudden they're driving brand new vehicles, brand new cars, and you guys saw tonight how they were excuse me, how they were targeting me with these so-called sports vehicle. Now, one of the, I think it was the BMW, that sports car by BMW. I was talking about this out here, the car honking, because again, they're trying to test my memory, see if I remember. But I remember one of Pam's male friend, I think his name is Joe. She was like, "Oh, he has one of those BMW." Again, you just hear the siren as I mentioned that, right? So again, yeah, I remember that. Okay, took me a while to bring it up, but I actually to come back into my mind, but I remember that. All right, so yeah. At the same time, right? Okay, I think I was here. Okay, what is known is that great strides in the area of behavioral control are now possible with systems developed and under. And my neighbor upstairs knocking. Okay. What we know is that great strides in the area of behavior controls are now possible with systems developed and under development by the most sophisticated countries on the planet. These new technologies represent a much different approach to warfare than our government is describing as part of the revolution in military affairs. And again, the word revolution in military affairs. While these new technologies offer much for military planners, they offer even more to citizens in general. The potential use in military applications and peacekeeping creates the need for an open debate of these new realm of intelligence gathering, manipulation, and warfare. The most basic ethical question regarding use of these technologies have not been adequately addressed. At the same time, as I said, the word address, at the same time, that defense and intelligence and the word defense, because I talk about building my psychological defense from the psychological attacks from the psyops, at the same time, that defense and intelligence gathering capabilities are being, and again, I talk about the noise and how it affects me, and this is showing you guys an example right now, right? And intelligence gathering capabilities are being sought. Independent researchers are fully engaged in seeking positive use for the technology. The potential of the science, like all technologies, are great as both destructive and constructive forces are change. The idea of enhancing physical and mental performance while bypassing what therefore was a long and arduous road to achieve the same result is exciting. Maintaining the research in an open literature and ensuring that constructive use are encouraged is critical. I began looking into technologies for manipulating brain performance about 25 years ago. At the time, there were limited tools available compared to what is now possible. Now it is possible to obtain light and sound, electrocranial, and biofeedback tools for use in this quest for personal improvement. Moreover, there are audio materials also available for use with most of these tools. Say audio available to use. These audio materials can be used for learning languages, behavior modification, or enhanced performance. The biofeedback side of the new technology is being used to train people to reach specific desired brain states for optimal performance. These tools and devices are discussed in part 2 of this book. The use of light and sound, device for stimulating brain activities for accelerated learning and relaxation is now a growing area of interest to many people. Also, the use of these instruments in conjunction with biofeedback have been the subject of quickly evolving research. So let me ask a question as a black person. Are any black people involved in such research? Well, be they the scientists or the those that the research the technology is being used on? Well, I can definitely say, yeah, the latter, right? They have been experimenting with these things on people, and not just black people, but the vast majority of the people experimented on with these from these technologies, particularly in the Western world, are black people. Okay? And, you don't need to take my word for it. Just look at the history. Okay? The combined technology of brain state inducement and biofeedback offer exciting possibilities. It has been found with the combination, a person in a matter of several weeks can learn to purposely modify his or her brain activity in a way which would have taken a Zen master 20 years to accomplish. It has been shown that some children with attention deficit disorder can be taught to regulate their brain activities so that they can learn efficiently without chemicals. Really? Do you hear that? So why is it that they keep prescribing, particularly black children, diagnosing them with ADHD and prescribing them medication? Right? Further, it has been shown that recovering strokes and other brain, as I said, recovering stroke and other brain injury victims can recover more rapidly when working with brain biofeedback practitioner and these new tools. The research is confirming a good deal about human suggestibility and how to influence individual and group behavior. The underlying message that comes with the new technology is the necessity of providing safeguard against misuse. Additionally, recognition of the everyday simulation we all get and the effect of these information input on our learning processes become more clear. Human suggestibility, particularly when in a fatigue condition, has been exploited by terrorists, cults, government, and others in the pursuit of their own aims. The passive suggestibility of, as I said, passive the passive suggestibility of radio and television as we weave in and out of the semi-sleep state is, for the most part, not even recognized. The passive learning situation becomes even more relevant when we consider how we receive the news in our daily lives. The ability to influence thinking, behavior, and performance. As I said, the ability to influence thinking, right? Because they hate it when I'm able to think, right? But they love it, if I was to believe, right? They hate it when you're thinking, but they love it when you're believing. Because when you're believing, you're ignoring the reality and you're not thinking. And therefore, they can manipulate you condition you however way they want, because you're going to just believe whatever it is that they say. Okay? The ability to influence thinking, behavior, and performance is indeed a two-edged sword. It is the case with any system that can be pulse modulated to resonate at a frequency codes of the body, including radio, TV, power grids, computer network, all wireless systems, the Earth's magnetic fields, and any other system that will allow energy to be transferred or propagated, though it can be used to carry information the brain and body will understand and react to. This is the center of the issue, as Dr. Rashko Michaela used to say. It is all about, as I said, Michaela, it is all about resonance, which represents the corresponding harmonies between energy transmitter and energy receiver. It is like dialing up a station on a radio. Only when the transmitter and receiver are in resonance can a person hear the radio station, which is the case with all components of the human, which is the case with all components of the human body, organs, cells, molecules, atoms, and got a call coming in. Yeah. All right. Okay. So that was Pam, the kid's mother. My daughter is up playing Roblox, and at 11:30 at night, and so I had to tell her to just turn off her computer and take the plug out. That's all. And so my daughter is screaming down the house, but what can I say? I told her, let her sleep with you. No, I don't want I want to sleep by myself. Well, I said, well, there you go. Then you're going, she's going to be up and you're going to be up, when you can just let her sleep in your bed and both of y'all fall asleep. Simple. But I can't tell her anything, because she gets upset, it hangs up the phone on me. Yeah. Modern day woman. So there are profound implications to the manipulation of people on an energetic level through these new technologies. In the 1980s and 1990s were focused on building up the physical body. This century will see a focus on building the mind and optimizing mental performance. Really? Well, if you look at the statistics today, particularly when it comes to large cities, and particularly when it comes to schools that in which the predominantly have black students and other children of color, you will see, and this is again, this is proven. They've done research on this, is that children today, teenagers, high school, even college, those are in colleges, they cannot retain information as well, that well, I should say. Okay, they have been a dumbing down of the mind. Now, I don't know how it is in the white suburbs, in these schools and where you have predominantly white students, but I know for a fact, again, this is proven. They've done research, statistical research, to show that particularly black children and other children of color, particularly in large cities, that their intelligence level has gone way down. Okay? So not only do they have the ability to increase and enhance your intelligence, but they can also dumb you down, make you stupid. Okay? So, and they've tried to do that with me. They've taken away a lot of my abilities to remember things, to in terms of my ability to be calm under pressure, right? My ability to focus, all right? That, and I do take supplements for that, but I have not really read through, I would say, a book chapter in over a year. Okay? Now I can sit here and I can do this video, right, and read that, but on my own, I'm not able to do it. Like, without doing these sort of video. And again, I'm only reading, one or two chapters, right? And reading other information, but I can't read this entire book. I'm unable to do it because of what they have done. Okay? So, where was I? In the interim, the possibilities are incredible for those interested in such pursuits. The control of our mental function is no different than the control, as I mentioned, mental function, right, is no different than the control of the muscles in our bodies. Learning to control or coordinate the activity of our minds will propel our bodies through a much more productive and fuller life. The new tools may offer just such opportunities. Yeah, but we know opportunities for who? Or for whom? If we begin to think about things like a direct download of information into the brain of learning subjects like mathematics and language, these new technologies will be very useful. These kinds of subjects do not require that value, judgment, or belief system be applied to the information being retained and learned. Using a direct download of information would be a fantastic way to learn certain subjects. Other subjects would not be suggested using these methods because these other study areas are not formula driven. These subjects require, as I say, driven, again, these subjects require value judgment that conforms to existing belief system being applied to reasoning. So example, again, using technologies on those who are very religious to solidify the belief even more, though their behavior may be contrary to what they believe, they're not going to see it that way. Okay? So these new technologies, in some cases, bypass the conscious mind and deliver the information so that So it is accepted without question by the subconscious and act upon. This is a very important point when we consider how much value filled information comes to us in public education systems, state controlled curriculums, and compulsory compulsory education presents real problems because these systems design programs that they believe represent the state of knowledge and activities of culture. The question is, who will control the input for our children? Do we even have the right to use these technologies before we are adults and able to make our own value judgment based on what our conscious minds create? We each must be in total control of our input, experience, and our personal belief system, free of any interference. This is called liberty. These tools will continue to evolve. The first generation systems are referenced in chapter 13, Tools for the 21st Century. From my own experience over 25 years, I have found these systems to be effective and useful in helping reach my higher potential. There are other new technology emerging that go beyond the present state of technology. Perhaps one day, even the uh, anomalous human potential will be unleashed. Are people ready for this? The day is coming, and some of us believe that it is already here. And the other side of the issue is the potential for misuse and exploitation of the science. Military, say science, yeah, you know, funny. Uh, Military planner, law enforcement official, and others are now seeking the covert use of these technologies in for controlling, as I say, for controlling, right? Uh, the ultimate information processor, the individual person. Liberty begins as a concept in the mind. Freedom combines with liberty to form the function of what we have created as the common values in a democratic republic based on the notion that all people are endowed by their creator with certain rights. I had not read the below declaration in too long a time. We hold these truths to be self evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that the secure that to secure these rights, government are instituted among men, uh, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its power in such form as to them shall seem not likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience had shewn, right, that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evil are sufferable than the rights right themselves by, as I said, rights and themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of buses and uh, usurpers, am I saying that correctly? Usurpers pursuing invariable the same object uh, Evans, a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government. I said it is their right. Yeah. So they're trying to just take away everybody's rights. That's what they're trying to say. Say you have no rights. Okay. This is what their new world order is moving into. All right. To throw off such a government and to provide new guards for their future security. You know, it's what New World is into. And they're using the religious fanatics, you know, who are ignorant and miseducated and using religion as a means to manipulate and to control them. All right. I went on the road. I went on to read the rest of the document, which highlighted the grievance of the American people under King George III of England. It is interesting to read because it's interesting to read again because many of those grievances have manifested under our own government today. It is a time to renew the spirit of freedom we once shared in a way which built our 21st century institutions of government to improve the human condition. No, slaves, enslaved people built this 21st century institution. Okay? All right. But I thank you for the work that you've done, Dr. Nick Begich. I really appreciate it. But again, you know, as a black person, understanding the truth, you know, as black people, we don't have the ability to walk through life because, you know, we've been taught to think that white people, all right, white people themselves have been taught to think that their ancestors built this country. No, this country was built off of the blood, sweat, the tears, the rape, the murder, the abuse, the negative psychological conditioning, the you know, just some of the most horrible things that you can do to human beings, right? And those human beings still built this country and gave this country the ability that it has today. Okay, as a nation, as a country, you know, and the so-called leader of the free world, right? But the world, we know the world is not really free. Okay, so it is time to throw off the tyranny of apathy and become active in forming a better democratic republic, a republic that can again become the leader in human rights based on those long ago made declarations. Again, I have to disagree. America has never been the leader of human rights, right? America has been and still is one of the worst offenders of human rights. Just look at us. Look at black people in America. Okay. Okay. So that will be what to do here. Go back here. All right. So want to bring your attention to this document, which you can find online. It is called, let me just, right, this is from this is the biological function as influenced by low power modulated EF energy, Alan H. Frey. And again, this was published. Okay, this was this report was published in, and you can see here, February 1971. So again, when I talk about these things, and you know, the media was controlled by the government, right? Who will spread the lies, you know, into having the public believe that there is no correlation, that microwave and radio wave frequency can cause biological harm, can cause neurological harm, can cause psychological harm. You know, it's a lie. It's a lie. And they've been lying to us for decades. Okay? They are research documents, and this is one of them, okay, that talks about some of the, the biological influence as well as the harm, okay? Like I said, go and Google the biological effect of radio wave and microwave frequency on the human body. All right. So, let me just, there was a part of this, I think that's where I had it and I had to scroll up. All right. So let me just, let's go back up a little bit here. All right. So, an additional reason for the negative view of American investigators is the fact that the Russians often did not give information in their paper, which we feel is necessary to evaluate the quality of the research. Russians working in some other area also do not give sufficient information to evaluate and replicate their work. Whatever the reason, the possibility of replicating experiment is very much in question. It would seem that an investigator would have to do as Morel, 1963, did to ensure the validity of his replication. Now remember, this is 1963, okay? Morel replicated an experiment reported from the USSR involving an application of low current density to the brain to induce behavioral effect and obtain negative results. Okay, remember now, this is 1963. Okay, shortly thereafter, he visited the USSR and received all the details on the experiment, and upon his return, was able to, in fact, replicate the experiment and confirm the Russian work. Okay, so they could confirm that with these radio wave and microwave frequency, particularly low current density to the brain, can induce behavioral effect and obtain negative results. Okay? There were other factors, non-technical factors, that influence and limit the direction of the research. Consideration of the spare data. The writer will now consider this sparse data. The review will be largely confined to UHF bands, since most of the significant data on low-level effect has been obtained using sources in this band. In general, known low-level effects are minimal outside of this band. The reason for this can be found in Figure 1. Energy at frequency within this band tends to penetrate and be deposited within the body. So we talk about UHF, right? Which is, back in the days, you had your television, you had the antenna, right? They call them the UHF antennas, okay? So with the advance in technology and technological devices came these side effects that they never told us about. Okay, I want you to keep this in mind. Okay, so when the American diplomats were being microwaved at the Moscow U.S. Embassy during the late 60s through the late 70s, right? The Russians were microwaving that embassy at a very low frequency range, right? A low level range. And that was their safest range, or the safety range. But the United States, right? Their safety range was so high. So imagine the diplomats over the course of 10 years being microwaved at the American embassy. Some of them developed psychological issue, neurological issue. Some of the men were sterile because of that. But imagine here in the United States, where we are being blanketed with such frequencies, right? That is 5 times more powerful than what the Russian safety standard is for bombarding human beings with these microwave frequencies, right? Imagine that. So, related to this is a recent observation, Health Personal Communication, 1970, that there is a narrow group of frequency within the UHF band between the frequency of 0.91 and 0.93 gigahertz, which are particularly stopped by the human head. The review will also be largely confined to data obtained using average power densities of less than 20 milliwatts centimeter square. Okay. Now that I have defined what RF effect data will be reviewed and the reason for the selection, I'll consider the data itself, since most of it has been published and an exhaustive review of it would be lengthy because of the experimental control involved. I shall summarize the various studies and provide the reference after initial exploratory work. All right. So this is free. Again, 1961, 1962, 1963, 1963, what have you. And a comprehensive review of the area free in 1965. So again, just to show you how long ago how far back they have been experimented with microwave and radio wave frequency for the purpose of not just sending and receiving signals to television devices, radio, what have you, but to the human mind, to our brains. Okay, so just wanted to just touch on this, right? Another thing I wanted to touch on again is here you go. This before I go to that psycholinguistic exploration of colors. This is the book called The Matrix Deciphered by Robert Duncan, right? Who was a CIA scientist. Okay. And in this book, particularly this part called The Disinformation Age and the Art of Deception, right? Government Deception Program. INSCOM is a division that furthers strategic deception and has been hard at work with the UFO and paranormal research communities. Uncle Sam once used stupid and ignorant. President Clinton was apologizing for military CIA experiments conducted on black people on whom were unknown participant in a syphilis study. They were purposefully not treated to observe. I was kind of got difficulty reading that word again, using the police siren, right? And then after that police sirens, I pressed the button to do the sound effect. Then they follow up with another police siren, right? They were purposefully not treated to observe the progression of the disease. 26 died. Similar experiments were done with herpes and other diseases. At the same time, Clinton is apologizing for other presidents who did not leash their dog of war. He and his military were involved in ramping up human torture experimentation trials with nervous system disruptor weapons. Similar episode occurred with Bush Sr. and Jr. It is the American way to experiment, torture, and kill randomly selected citizens to keep up with military weapons statistics data and then have presidents apologize when the information is released 20 to 30 years later. Nothing will change. And we should come to grips with it as a nation. It is the unspoken debt lottery the military holds because they aren't smart enough to come up with other solutions. We have to do it because the Russians are testing remote control heart attack weapons. We must sacrifice a few to understand the weapons capabilities, is the softly spoken military view. What is it to be American? This book has been translated in 12 languages. If you're lucky enough not to be American, when I use the word we, I mean us Americans, you are probably already very aware of the two faces of the U.S. The words we propagandize through media and politicians, and the shadow government that creates war and rationales for them. The military even greater influences our politicians and media. We teach our kids how to kill at an early age with mostly guns as toys in our stores. We are one of the most violent and militant cultures in the world, as can be seen in our movies and murder rates. Other countries should fear us as we are the sole superpower and have clear, as I said, sole superpower here. Right. And then again, followed by another siren. Um, other countries, right, other countries should fear us as we are the sole superpower and have clear intentions on expansion of our influence. Other countries would be well advised to hold secret meetings to partner and balance the power. And as I said, balance the power here, right? And I offer this advice for those lucky enough to be patriotic flag waving ignorance like I was 2 years ago. Enjoy the delusion and pray your number of loved ones are not the next to be drawn. Showing support for an idea is good. For an ideal is good, but supporting a facade system that has taken those same colors will help destroy those very ideals. I was doing my part to stop the CIA and the U.S. military international criminal behavior by documenting the steps and method. And again, you're out here doing my part, Cyrus, which I am doing. I am doing my part. So if they want to assassinate me, throw me in jail, whatever, that's what they have to do. Okay? Sorry. But your fear-based psychological campaign is no longer working. Okay? Though I may still be affected by it, but I will always try and push through it. Okay? Um, uh, I was doing my part to stop the CIA and the military international criminal behavior by documenting the steps and methods gathered from my interviews with the thousands of American experiments that they are using to create Manchurian candidates, suicide bombers, and dissidents in other lands to destabilize them. With the knowledge of the weapons and method used to hack the human mind, these countries might stand a chance at deprogramming and disrupting the U. And I said deprogramming and disrupting the U.S. criminal sponsored network and discovering the double agents within their own security agencies. Methods of discrediting, gaslighting. We naturally use a philosophy of Occam razor, which states that the simplest explanation is usually the best. So to make someone sound paranoid, all you have to do is come up with a sufficiently complex plan of harassment. And the majority of, I said harassment, and the majority of people's disbelief of that event will be sufficient not to act or care about it. If you study the psychology of people, like psychological operations and the CIA do, you can predict with a certain degree of accuracy what that person will believe given certain facts. We like to believe we are spontaneous and have choice, but when viewed objectively, that subjective feeling of choice becomes nothing more than a low probability of neural firing events. When people describe their decision, they often say, I had no choice. This is simply a strong probability of neural firing events. Logic often dictate the strongest neural firing pathways given certain possible actions. You have just learned a basic principle of psychophysics by mapping the subjective experience of choice to the objective casualties of brain dynamics. Politicians use the tactics of discrediting their opponent through mudslinging, making up or digging up dirt that makes people question the honesty and validity of their opponent's statement is the goal of many campaigns these days. The CIA and foreign intelligence agencies use skeletons of politicians to control them through blackmail. If someone gets out of line, a leak to the press is all it takes to disable them as a force of change. Lawyers use the discrediting tactics on witnesses by trying to demonstrate to the injury a pattern, demonstrate to the jury a pattern of lying, misperception, or ulterior motive. They can successfully discredit a witness. While all these traditional tactics have proven fruitful throughout time without warning effectiveness, the agencies involved in extreme cover-up prefer other tactics that seem to have withstood the test of time too. That is labeling someone paranoid, schizophrenic, or mentally ill. Once that label have been attached to someone, almost all testimony will be disbelieved. The military has employed this tactic since the 60s to get rebellious soldiers and others locked up in mental hospital. But since the weapons testing of neurological disruptive technology has begun on the general population beginning in the early 60s and then stepped up to full throttle in 1976, the scope of what is considered mentally ill had to be reprogrammed into a broader definition for the general population. The movie A Beautiful Mind was timed to program, as I said, timed to program people with the notion that even geniuses can be mentally ill. So even if a brilliant person whose logic is impeccable describe hearing voices, they're, as I said, impeccable. Describe hearing voices, their account should be dismissed and they may be violent and dangerous if they believe their delusion. Perhaps. But if you look at the detail of the way the mind works, it is extremely unlikely for the majority of the brain to function properly, especially at higher level cognitive. I talk about brain function properly. A higher cognitive function, and the auditory and visual pathway to be severely compromised. Specifically, when one delves into the detail of the science of the mind and current weapon capabilities, it becomes obvious that the more probable event is actually the more complicated in terms of the history of the U.S. human effects weapon testing programs and the science behind it counterintuitive to the OCAM, OSCAM, is it OXCAM razor principle at first blush. As I said, as I was reading, OSCAM said the word razor. I hear, yeah, okay, not happening. And then it do the spit sound, as I said, okay, not happening. Right? Principle at first blush. Strategic deception. Actions may be judged in the context of all possibilities to understand their meaning, the actor's motive, and their relevance. Another tactic that has successfully been employed by the government agents to help hide their secret concentration camps and human experimentation using this technology is by sending agents to pose as victims. Their task is to be outspoken and as crazy sounding as possible. I have run into at least two of these actors. This kind of warfare has commonly been used by the CIA to manipulate foreign countries' power circles. The psychological method works on the same principle as other disinformation tactics. It relies on the average person tendency to generalize a single sample point to a whole group and use binary thinking. These common logical flaws have been exploited to deceive the public for many decades. Simply by getting a couple of agents to pretend they are psychotronic slaves, then have them talk about evil aliens and other typical non believable topics. The whole group of people who now talk about electromagnetic brain manipulation is associated with evil aliens and not believed by the average person who heard this first story. Now, early on, when a lot of TI used to get on talk show for the Freedom of Information against covert harassment talk show, I used to have a lot of these characters come in, talking all kind of wild talks about abducted it being aliens. And I had actually, when I had my own show, I had this one female called in telling me that her face was melting, her body was melting. And I just said to her, listen, if your face was melting, if your body is melting, how is it that you're holding your cell phone in your hand? And how is it that you have, perfect speech? All right. And so what I would do is I would just kind of like mute them. And, I wouldn't kick them off the show, but I would mute them because I knew exactly who they were. I knew that they were, disinfo agents that was sent to call into any shows done by legitimate TIs that don't talk about alien abduction, that don't talk about about how they seen ghosts and all this stuff, and spiritual warfare and all this other stuff, right? And I kept my show strictly informational, using facts, using research data, okay? And at times I have to constantly stop myself from thinking, along those lines, right, about alien technology, because they are forever sending me these subliminal messages about that, But again, it's to discredit me. So I try very hard not to. This is one of the reasons why I don't really get into the whole Illuminati thing. And, though the Illuminati is a real organization, okay? And I tend to have to narrow what I talk about using the research data that I find that was given to me, and I kind of stick to that format, right? Because it's very easy when someone is in a certain condition, particularly when they're being manipulated psychologically by these weapons, to fall into such things, right? I'll give you an example. It's like recently, like I have a twin brother. He's a TI, and he was telling me that they've been doing this to us, me and him, since we were young, right? And and I've never really focused on that, you know, but from time to time, you know, I would say to myself, what if he's right? You know, I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm not saying that he's right either. It's just that I try not to think that far back. But I tell you what, I definitely do know is that when his targeting went live to where he was able to see the manipulation, you know, and when they thought that they, you know, could get rid of him or try to use him, right? And again, a lot of times he didn't know what's happening. He was diagnosed with a mental illness, paranoid schizophrenia, and about half a decade, maybe 5 or 6 years later, the same thing was happening to me. But I definitely know from looking back, I remember in certain things that happened that my targeting began long before I was able to recognize I shouldn't say recognize, but to become aware of the tactics and the patterns. And again, when you go through this stuff, it is very damaging to your psychological state, right? Not only that, but your neurological state, because you're being hit with weapons that uses the microwave radio frequency. So when I went to get my first brain scan done, they did everything possible so that I wouldn't get it done. To where my insurance, and I was working at the time, so my insurance company wouldn't authorize it. Okay? I mean, I went through many facilities where I was told, oh, the insurance company they haven't authorized it. It's just a waste of time. And then finally, I was able to get it done. All right. And so I need to go get another one done because it's been a few years and I know my condition has worsened. All right. So, but the psychological attacks, not just from the psyops on the ground, but also the psychological attacks from what is called silent sound spectrum technology. Okay, and they've tried very hard to get me to talk about this. And every time I mention silent sound, they would use the police sirens. And they just did too. All right, so anyway, let me continue. All right. Okay, I read that. It relies on the average person. So the psychological method works on the same principle as other disinformation tactics. It relies on the average person tendency to generalize a simple sample point to a whole group and use binary thinking. These common logical flaws have been exploited to deceive the public for many decades. Simply by getting a couple of agents to pretend they are psychotronic slaves and then have them talk about evil aliens and other typical non-believable topic, the whole group of people who now talk about electromagnetic brain manipulation is associated with evil aliens and not believe, and as I said, associated with evil and not believed by the average person who heard the first story. This is a simple tactic, but has proven to work very effectively on making the average person just with limited time and input come to faulty conclusion and judgments about testimony related to the same topic. Psychological warfare, information warfare, and strategic deception are actively used treasonously by our own population just because these criminals are using invisible directed energy weapons and not guns, and because they we define information warfare as propaganda, we are supposed to think it is less than war and murder of the citizens. These are invisible weapons being used far more destructively than a simple bullet to the head. Another often used tactic of misdirection is to create a large drama for public consumption. In the past, when these activities were gaining more attention, political scandals were leaked to the press or some other drama created. I would wager that by the time this book is published, the U.S. will have started down the road to invading Iran, then Syria, followed by North Korea. Another war would be a good distraction from the topics covered in this book, which might lead to greater awareness and self-realization, and then possibly awakening the giant from his slumber. Okay, so I'm going to end it here. And again, the book is called, let me scroll up here, The Matrix Deciphered, right, by Robert Duncan. Okay, so let's move on to this quick article from the Journal of Literature, Language, and Linguistics, the psycholinguistic exploration of color schematics. And I talk about color, how color is used to affect and manipulate my emotions, also my thought patterns, and how they use color and color association in terms of what you call colorism. Okay. So I'm gonna read the abstract, right? And it says the purpose of present research is to identify varieties of meaning imparted by colors and its effects on emotions and mood. Traditional literature is linguistically intertwined with explication of colors and their meaning, serpent from imaginative spheres of human mind to determine their mood. The presence, I just heard coughing, again, using the coughing sound. I think I do have that sound effect. Where is it? There we go. All right. The present study delves deep into psycholinguistic perspective of color, mood, and language, and thus invites casual profile of exploration, cumulative qualities of color, strengthening their grounds on the basis of culture, social, as I said, grounds, and their basis of cultural, social, historical, affective, political, and linguistic compasses, therefore interpret a variety of connotation having expressed in the form of moods. In this study, survey techniques were employed through questionnaires and gather relevant information. Both closed-end and open-end questions were included to ensure validity. All right. So let's go. Introduction. Color reflects meaning through linguistic methods by mirroring everything which could be visualized. Ancient literature highlighted color projection as an essential part of life. Colors exercise deeper effect on emotions and feelings of human beings. Mood is generally an amalgamation, right? Let me see if I'm saying that right. An amalgamation of such several constantly changing emotions, which are often expressed in the form of, I think I just heard the siren, as I said, express, in the form of language and gestures. Thus, language and color together help determine type of mood. Mother Nature fabricates the most fundamental source of color symbolism. Looking at blue color of sky adds a sense of relief, hope, spirit, and truthfulness. Similarly, All colors have profound meaning, which are usually symbolic. Colors often or seldom are indicative of inner self, mind, and psychological trends and aptitudes of human beings. In the color wheel, a person can envision merely colorful objects, calculate surroundings through unconscious psychological mechanism, and choose appropriate words, lexi, vocabulary, sentence structure, or tone to describe his exact perception. Color owes certain uh, efficacy to gauge temperature of environment, which unconsciously affects language and behavior, such as red, orange, and yellow are assumed to be warm colors, whereas others like blue, green, and violet impact cooling effect. There have been different reactions observed in response to exposure to different colors in daily life activities. Similarly, color symbolism has been used at great length by the writers, poets, and literary artists in their works profusely. Thus, colors are not merely description in language to provide a rationale behind certain moods and behavior arisen in a specific situation. Instead, colors give vitality to the hackened social setting. Ample research has suggested that color can affect a person's moods, and language. Okay, so just gonna read it and end it there. But again, you guys can go get this. It's a 6-page, research paper. Very informational. I say very informational. Very informative. Okay, and given all the noise going on, excuse the jumbledness of some of the things that I'll say. But again, I try to show you guys how they use color negatively, right? So if you go and you look up color psychology, right, where you'll find some of the negative association or the negative use of colors and how it affects your consciousness, your subconscious in a negative way, right? So that's part of the psyops. Again, is using color, and also how they try to associate what is called neurolinguistic programming, which creates anchors and triggers, right? So in the use of colorism, using lighter skinned people in my targeting, white people in my targeting to convey certain messages, particularly when it comes to a certain particular person, right? That, like you have feelings for, like your girlfriend, your boyfriend, who they've destroyed the relationship. And, they will, like for me, they'll try to prey on this notion that I'm somewhat racist, but I'm like, black people cannot be racist. Okay. I could be bigoted, but I'm only bigoted to the people that hates me. So they could be black, white, yellow, green, whatever color you are. If you hate me, if you're working against me, if you hate black people working against my people, then yeah, I cannot love you. I'm not that type of dude. Though they try to turn me into that type of dude, that turn the other cheek type of dude, that love your enemy. No, I'm not Christian. I'm not religious. And even Christian people don't even practice that shit. Okay? America don't ever turn the other cheek when there's an attack on American people. All right? So that nonsense about loving your enemy, they don't even practice that shit. Okay? So yeah, and it's pretty funny when I say it, because it's laughable. It's laughable because they don't practice that, but they'll tell you to practice that though. As a black person, as a black person, they'll tell you to practice that. Okay, so but anyhow, I guess I will speak to you guys in the next video, and thank you guys for listening.